Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Placement Talks. Today, I have with me Harsh Sankar Naicker, who has been placed in WorkIndia. Hi, Harsh Bhaiya. It's great to have you here. To start this off, let's have an introduction about yourself and the company that you've been placed in.
Hi Shreya, thanks for having me over. Really nice to share my experience and everything. I am in my fourth year pursuing BTech in Electronics and Computer Engineering from VIT Chennai. And as you mentioned, I've been placed in Work India. Just for an intro for the company, just how you, so it's basically a job portal for blue collar jobs. So generally you have Naukri.com, LinkedIn, and other job portals for white collar jobs. Similarly, you have Work India for blue collar jobs, in the sense that blue collar jobs means that people who are not highly skilled laborers, for them to be connected to the right employer, say a driver, a delivery person, etc., any sort of person on any sort of pay grade, to be connected to the right employer, Work India is used. So they have their own website and they also have an app. So that's the brief introduction of the company. So it's a startup. They started a few years ago. They started their operations first in Thane, and that's near Mumbai, and now they are headquartered in Bangalore. So that's where my job location is as well. And about me, just any other normal guy, really interested in software and hardware both. I've spent the past 3 years within college exploring everything that I can, and a bunch of internships, bunch of projects, college fests, and everything. So yeah, I guess that's about it.
Okay, that's great, Bhaiya. So, congratulations on your placement. We're eager to hear more about this journey. So, could you describe the application and selection process that you've gone through?
Yeah, they had come for three profiles. That is software development, data analyst slash data scientist, and third was associate product manager. The first procedure was you had to simply apply on the campus interaction portal. Most people would have heard. That is the portal that VIT uses for their placement procedures. You simply click on apply over there. After that, the company does shortlisting of the people who are allowed to give the first test. So around 1,400 people were shortlisted to be allowed to give the first test. While you were giving the first test, you had to choose which profile you want to be considered for. So a separate test was conducted for the three profiles. So associate product manager had a separate test. Software development and engineering had a separate test. Data scientist and analyst had a separate test of separate durations, and obviously separate questions and kinds of questions. I had gone for the SDE role, and within SDE, they asked for three preferences within that as well. They were hiring for front-end engineer, back-end engineer, and app development. So you had to give a test of 90 minutes for the software development role. After you give the first test, next shortlist was for the second round. So from here on out, I would only know about for the software development role procedures, because it's separate for all. So for the software development role, for the three profiles separately, whoever was shortlisted were asked to go for a development round where they were given different tasks depending upon the choice that they are given. So for example, since my choice was the app development profile, I was given a task at around 1 p.m. I was given a design of an application that I had to make on Android. And I was given a deadline till 6:30 p.m. By then I had to complete making the app. It was a basic app, nothing too complicated or anything. Basic app with a basic functionality, for which they wanted me to complete the implementation, put it on GitHub, also generate an APK downloadable file that I would share with them on their form. Next stage is the tech evaluation round, in which they evaluate the task that you just submitted in the previous round. Meaning, for app development, they evaluated my app which I submitted, both the outcome of the app, that is the final finished product, and as well as the code of it. So after that, you get selected for another interview, which is the final round called the culture round, in which they basically an HR round of sorts, where they simply see you whether you are a good fit for the company or not. So that is the application process of the whole thing.
Okay, Bhaiya. So, you mentioned several levels throughout this process. So, how did you personally prepare for each of these levels?
Okay, so for the software development role, the first test, as I mentioned, had duration of 90 minutes, in which they tested for competitive programming, that is data structures and algorithms. They tested for SQL as well, and they tested for aptitude as well. All three things were there within the same test. So the primary source for me was like a day or two before the test, like when the dates had come out, when so and so would happen. I went through Geeks for Geeks and found out what is the pattern of the because it is not revealed from the company until the day of the test. So you would have to do your own background research on what the questions are and everything. So I found out that these are the three sections that they ask. So I had already been preparing for data structures and algorithms on my side through various platforms. So I am an ICSE student, and then I also went for ISC. So I had a grab over Java since for like 6-7 years now. So for data structures and algorithms, I was already using Java, and I also use Python. So my focus for the placement was that for data structure specific questions, I would use Java, and for algorithm based questions, which would like dynamic programming or simple puzzle kind of based questions, I would use Python. That was my approach to prepare. So I used to use Hacker and Lead Code. Basically, it's incessant practice of all the concepts. So study one concept, then practice a few questions on it, then move on to the next concept, so that you're sure that you've solidified your grasp over the previous concept. Next was SQL. So for generally by this time for ECM and CSE, you would already have done the DBMS course in the college, which I would not say is on par with what is actually required, but the lab sessions are actually useful. So if you even do the labs of the DBMS course properly, you would have a good hang of at least 1 DB. So I was using MySQL. And the thing with WorkIndia was that if you go through the articles that where people have shared their experiences, the people for them, they mentioned that the people who cleared at least all of the SQL questions, and say even missed out on at least one coding question, they got shortlisted. So naturally, my inference was that SQL is the more important aspect, or rather the deciding factor in this test. So a day before, I practiced SQL more than DSA, and that kind of helped me, because on the next day, the aptitude questions are very, very simple. For WorkIndia, they weren't anything complex, very simple, some simple mathematical logic, clocks, etc., etc. What would be the angle between two hands, the minute hand and the hour hand, etc., etc. So very simple. So that was my strategy. So it helped me. So I solved all of the SQL questions, and I think I solved all of the coding questions except one which I solved partially, and all of the aptitude also, which were easy. So yeah, and I tried to finish the test as early as possible, that too. So that was my preparation.
Okay, so you've talked about the aptitude round. So coming to the technical round, could you tell us what exactly were the type of questions and topics that were covered?
As I mentioned, the second round was not a technical interview; it was a development round. So basically, for the app dev profile, they gave me an app to be made. So it was basically they provided me a design on Figma, and I had to replicate the same user interface and user experience along with the functionality that they wanted, and they also wanted a basic API call within it. So. And they were pretty open actually, so they had also given an open Gmeet link which we could join at any time during the hours that were allotted for the round, so that we could go and clarify what our doubts are with respect to the task and everything. Because when it comes to Android app development, you can use various tech stacks. So one basic query was to find out what tech stack can be used. So I had already been working on app development for a few months before that. So I code in React Native. So I already had a very good grasp of React Native. I just needed to get approval from them whether they are okay with it or not. I simply asked them like, yeah, fine, that's great. So they are open to React Native. They were not open to Flutter, and they were okay with I think so other platforms. Probably some people use Kotlin, if I am not wrong. I do not have a confirmation on this. So I use React Native. So the round was very simple. The app was very simple. So I just had to replicate the design So they give you a task sheet. Every company, not just Work India, any other company also would give the detailed task sheet about what the task is, and also the separate judging criteria. So they have different weightage for the different subtasks that you have done. So one, say, a separate weightage for the UI that you have replicated, a separate weightage for the functionality that has been the level to which the functionality has been completed, and then probably some companies also give you a bonus task. WorkIndia didn't have a bonus task. Sometimes you do may even get a bonus task. So yeah, that was the deal. So by 6:30 we had to submit. So I finished the task by say 4 or something. So that is the second round.
Okay, Payam. So, how many students applied and were able to clear the interview successfully? So, how many students applied and were able to clear the interview successfully?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, 1,400 people gave the first test across the three profiles, that was data analyst, software development, and uh, APM, that is Associate Product Manager. Out of this, 12 were shortlisted for the data analyst role for the next round, 13 in the full stack development profile. Like within SD, there were three. Within SD, there are full stack for that 13. For backend dev, 13. And for app development, there were 8. And for associate product manager role, the emails were sent separately to on the personal mail, so the list wasn't shared. So that information is not with me. So this was the breakup, and there were also certain people who were selected for the front end dev. That list was also not shared. So yeah. So this was the number, like around. So I would say around total 13, 12, around 70 people were shortlisted for the second round across all the domains in total.
So, what were your strategies in cracking these interviews?
I'll be very honest. So, for me, actually, I have been working with a lot of companies before. So, I'm the sort of person who learns by doing projects than sitting on a course and sitting and doing it in just one place. So, for me, my approach in my entire year, third year probably, I think I worked for 8 months out of 12 across three companies. They were all startups. Once I worked as an AI engineer, once I worked as a React Native developer, and then I also had a research internship going on with New York University, where again I was working on machine learning. And this sort of gave me a good background on the various roles that generally companies come for. So from a software development point of view, since I'd worked with companies, I sort of had this confidence that once I reached to the interview round, I would really be okay with any question being asked to me about anything that I've written in my resume, because it's all done by me. So that was really panned out for me. I was like pitch perfect with everything that I have on my resume, and that is very important. Never ever put anything on your resume that you are not comfortable with, right? So like even if you know 4 or 5 languages, put only the ones that you are really comfortable in, because once you put it on your resume, it means that you are declaring that you're comfortable with it. Then you cannot say that no, I'm not comfortable in it. They would ask you if they want to make you code anything in front of them, what language you're most comfortable in. That would happen, but it is generally a good practice from that angle. Another strategy that I think is very, very crucial and helped me the most was having very good connections with my seniors. So I had a very, very good relation with a couple of my seniors. So if there was any ambiguity about any company, any of the procedures, or what I should do at some time, even for that matter, actually, you can actually get cold feet at sometimes. It's very natural, very human. This is something that I'm talking about. Is not not technical, but more related to every person. It differs. So at that time, having somebody to boost your morale is also nice. So having good contacts with your seniors who have been through the process to guide you through the same is very, very important, because every company that I sat for at least knew one person who was already working in the company through the placement last year, or at least knew someone who's working there, so I could contact and find out what kind of question would they ask in the interview and everything. So that was very important. So sort of like scouting from my own side to find out beforehand. And with respect to the technical, that is the first round. as in the coding round, I would suggest every person to be very, very comfortable with at least one language between C++ or Java. Uh, Again, disclaimer, I cleared all my placements using solely Python. I didn't use Java anywhere. The only reason that you need to know either CPP or Java is that most companies would ask you certain predict the output questions or debug the code questions that would either be in CPP or Java. Naturally, because they cannot provide these questions in all programming languages, right? People good in JavaScript also in many other languages, so they cannot provide these kinds of sections in multiple languages, except for a few companies like Morgan Stanley, who at least gave us an option. Like in the section when they had predict the output, they would give you an option in which of these three languages would you like to see the questions, and then they ask the questions only in that language. So at least know one between CPP and Java. That is like standard common to all the companies. So they would ask you some basic for loops or functions, etc., etc. What would this code give as the output, etc. So use HackerRank a lot. I use HackerRank a lot to get my basics clear with respect to any programming language. So for Python, I sort of use HackerRank to get my basics clear and everything. After that, what my strategy was, I sort of wanted to boost up my speed, the speed that I'm taking to solve a particular question. So now this is different for people. For every person has a different approach. For me, I was very, very comfortable in Python already. And some people have this notion that using Python is a disadvantage during the placement process. I feel it is not. If you code properly in Python. So since I was very strong in Python, I also did a course, I think, on Udemy for data structures and algorithms. Now I had become very strong in using even data structures using Python itself. So earlier I was using Java for data structures and Python for dynamic programming and other topics, but now I was using Python for everything. So for me it was like, if a code is of 20 lines in Java, I would write it in just 10 lines in Python, because some companies and some rounds are really time sensitive. So I did completely in Python. So choose a language that you're really comfortable in and make sure that you master it completely. So there are different optimized ways of solving questions that you need to explore. Never settle for one approach ever. So every question has at least 3 to 4 ways of being solved, and always look at all 3 to 4 of them, because when you look at the various variations or solutions of every question, you get inspiration to solve a different kind of question that may be similar in nature to this. So because you cannot solve every question under the sun before the exam, it's not humanly possible. So at least if you cover the core problems that are there, like longest common subsequence, longest increasing subsequence, etc., and their variations and everything, you would be prepared for similar questions. Then it is just about applying the logic that is there. So yeah, this was my approach for the interviews. As I said, I only put the stuff that I was completely confident in my resume. Make a one-page resume, max to max two if you would want to put some more stuff. So I had a very, very long resume. My seniors advised me to reduce it down to one. So I reduced it down to one. I put only the key projects that I needed for the particular company that I'm applying for. For every company, I did not use the same resume. Okay, so when the company sends you the job description, you read the job description and see what are the keywords over there. Say it would happen that some company is actually looking for React JS, some company is looking for React Native, another company may be looking for Spring Boot, another company may be looking for machine learning, etc., etc. So see what they are looking for, and if you have a project related to that, put that project over there, right? Because it doesn't make sense that, say, you made a project on Arduino and you're putting it in your resume. You're just putting two projects in your resume, and out of that one you're putting Arduino wala project, but you are interviewing for a software company. They wouldn't be that interested, because a lot of work, half of your work went into hardware. So be smart about the resumes that you're using. Keep revamping them for every company that is coming across after reading the job description. And during the interviews, be confident. It's not just treat the interviews as a conversation. So the interviewers, 99% of the interviewers are very, very nice. They're looking for reasons to hire you. Okay, they are not looking for reasons to reject you, right? So what that means is that they will try to be helpful also. So keep it, keep the street from your side open. Okay, it's a two-way street. So when they have asked you to solve something, don't just sit there and think of your approach and then just give them the solution. It is great that you solve the question, but you should walk them through the approach that you're doing. So say when they have, so for example, they have asked you to share your screen and code a particular question in front of them, right? When you're coding, just talk through your approach with them, because they want to know what kind of thought process that you have used to solve this question. They want to see your problem solving skills. Okay, so even if you go wrong, even if the output is wrong or something, it's still great because you have given them some quality from your side, that you have given them your thought process, so they know that. When you come to the if you clear the technical round, I would say 80% of your tension is over, because once you reach the HR round, most like 9 out of 10 times you would get through to the final and like get placed, right? Because the HRs are always like in all my interviews, all the internships and all the other companies that I started for apart from Work India as well, all the HRs were really friendly. Okay, they just want to get to know you as a person and want to see how good of a fit you will be for the role. So they just want to see your maturity, how well you would connect with people, how well would you work with people, how would you handle situations where things do not go your way. They would probably throw situational questions at you. So just be cool with the interviews, never panic, because they are looking for reasons to hire you and not reject you. And I guess, yeah, that's it. So that would be the gist of my approach.
What are your views on the need for participation in coding clubs or chapters while in college?
Okay, so I think for me, I'm the ex-captain of Team Aviators International. It's a special team on campus. Apart from that, I was the head of the Masters of Ceremony Committee for Vibrance. And in the same year, I was also in the marketing committee. I was in the marketing committee for the previous fest and the one before that as well. So I was always involved in a lot of clubs. I was in IEEE Comsoc also. I was in Aerospace Club also. I was the vice president of Aerospace Club and the project manager of IEEE Comsoc. So for me, I sort of made it a thing for me that I'll be involved in 10 places always. And I feel it was really essential for me because I'll be very honest, your resume is not seen unless and until you clear the first round. Okay. So don't think that if you participate in clubs and any sort of club or fest or anything is gonna give you any brownie points in the first round. Okay. Nobody looks at your resume in the first round. You have to clear the coding round. Only then when you reach the interview, at that time while you're being interviewed, they'll glance at your resume. Now when they're glancing at the resume and they see some sort of demonstrated leadership, it does put you in the good books, in the sense that you have shown responsibility somewhere. Apart from that, I feel the more you engage yourself with various clubs and chapters, you build your personality. Okay, because communication skills is a huge part of every student, because they are just not looking for somebody who's technically strong. They're also looking for someone who is a good communicator, because you need to be a team player. You need to be able to communicate with your superiors, with your peers, and later in your career with your subordinates as well, right? So when you work with clubs and take various kinds of initiatives and responsibilities, I feel it gives you a small taste of what it is to work with different kinds of people. Because I'm sure, since every student, any club that you go to, you would not always find the people that you like are there. You know, sometimes people, you would not have a great chemistry with certain people, but you would still have to work, because at the end of the day, it is a commitment that you have given. And I feel that is a good way of getting yourself prepared for things later. And for me, it helped me in my interviews a lot. My communication skills, I feel, are very dear to me and very important. And for my friends as well, I guess all my friends who got placed with me in the slot one or all people who were definitely involved in 2 or 3 clubs and doing something else other than academics to show that you have growth beyond the bounds of your classroom. So that is very important.
Okay, and how much does soft skills in college really help during interviews or elsewhere? So, how much does soft skills in college really help during interviews or elsewhere?
Yeah, so I guess this is a very, very valid question. And frankly speaking, if you actually do the second year of your soft skills very seriously, you're pretty much good to go for the aptitude sections of most of your tests. Aptitude, not the coding. Aptitude is different, right? So, aptitude and puzzles and stuff is really great because for me, I kind of listened to my faculty for soft skills. I had a couple of good faculties, so it kind of helped me during the aptitude sections because I didn't have to explicitly prepare for the aptitude sections of the companies that I sat for, because it was a smaller component of the test. Like I mentioned for Work India, also it was coding, skill, and aptitude, all three clubbed together in the same test. So yeah, for the first round, sorta helps, sorta may not as well. Depends upon the kind of question that I asked. But yeah, like to give you a good test of the waters and everything, soft skills helps. And people who may not be comfortable in say Java or something and want to get a hang of it, and like certain companies do come specifically for Java, in that case, then in your third year, uh, you the entire year the soft skills is in Java, it's Java coding, so that kind of helps. And yeah, the specifics that they teach, the theory, okay, I cannot comment on the coding wala part because I myself already knew Java, so it was kind of a different scenario for me, so I wouldn't be able to speak from the coding point of view. But from the theoretical point of view of how Java works and the theory and how things are handled in the backend and everything in Java was really nice. So the content that I had read up during my third year, it really helped me during my interviews because they used to ask those small specific questions about, hey, what happens, what is heap memory, and how a string stored, what is string buffer, etc., etc. Some of these questions will be asked in that cases. Even those 1 or 2 marks sometimes make the difference. Say it's an easy paper and there are 12 questions and 10 everybody would answer, and 2 are those very small basic questions that you would never think would be asked, but if you have seen them before, you are in luck. So that's how I would say that the soft skills kind of helped me.
So, how do you maintain the dream CGPA and how much actual impact does this have during placements?
Okay, very honest, I'll be. Uh, it's kind of easy, a little bit easier. Okay, I'm not saying easy totally, but little bit easier for the CSC students to be shortlisted because the criteria that they look for CGPA for CSC students is lesser compared to people who are from other backgrounds. I am from ECM, so you'll be surprised, but in slot one, nobody with the CGPA below 9 was allowed to give the test from ECM except for Amazon. Okay, Amazon was the only company during the slot one. I sat only till the slot one, so I wouldn't know of the companies later. But till slot one, only students from with a 9+ CGPA from EC and ECM were allowed to sit. And so I guess that is important that if you maintain something around 9, that would be great. Actually, to be honest, 8.5 plus is comfortable. For slot one, I felt, I don't know what the situation was last year, but for our years, sadly, only and the cutoffs are done from the company, so you cannot do anything about it, right? So the VIT placement office does everything from their side to try and push for as many students to be shortlisted as possible, right? But the company is the one that shortlists. So even the so maintain sort of like 8.5 to 9.3 should be fine, right? And with respect to how you can maintain it, I do not have any mantra or anything for this, but I would say try to do well in most of your exams. You don't need to ace any all the tests or anything. try to get by with A's and S's. A's mostly should be fine. If you try to get as many A's as possible, you naturally end up with a 9 point. And because my friends, all of my close friends have already gotten placed post the slot one as well, and not all of them had 9+ CGPA, but it still works out. So not all companies have this very strict cutoff. So it's not that if you don't have a 9 CGP, you wouldn't get placed. Absolutely nothing like that. Okay, because depends from company to company. It's sort of, I would say from my side that uh, be easy on yourself. If you try to maintain something around 8.5 to 9.3, it would be nice. And there's a small bit of a luck factor that is there. Okay, so because there's some shortlists that you wouldn't be able to explain ki, hey, I don't know how this person got shortlisted and I didn't get shortlisted and everything. It's totally in the company's hand, and they never reveal the shortlisting criteria. So don't be too hard on yourself. Okay, there are like hundreds of companies, like literally hundreds of companies that come to the campus, and law and like majority of them are super dream as well. Okay, so it's not like you wouldn't get placed in a super dream company later if you don't get placed now. Okay, so just be easy on yourself. uh, I don't know what the situation with respect to COVID will be. So when physical classes will be starting and everything, so make the best use of this time that you have, that you are actually at home. Because people who are in the third year, I guess this is the best time for you guys to prepare. And since you're in the comfort of your home, you are not exerting yourself physically, and so that means you can actually put in a lot of time from your side for academics as well, and then to your other activities as well comfortably, right? So I guess use this as to your advantage as much as you can, so that by the time you end with your third year, and even if they do call you on campus, you would have used this time to prepare yourself, prepare your profile also and everything. Those people who may or may not, like by bad luck would have an year or something, get them cleared before the placement start. Absolutely very essential. If you have a standing arrear, you cannot sit for the placements. So you need to clear your arrears in case anybody has. So use the summer term or the weekend intra-sems or something to get them clear. So I guess yeah, that should be about it.
So to wrap this up, Bhaiya, do you have any other tips you would like to share with the juniors?
Simply this, that I think so. It is very easy to get disheartened through the process, because there are a lot of times, as I mentioned, there's a bit of a luck factor that is involved in this. Okay, thousands of people write the test. I told you like 1400 wrote the test for me. Okay, and me and my friend wrote approximately the same level of answers. Okay, because we discussed after the paper how was it and everything, and we almost solved the same number of questions and everything. But my friend didn't get shortlisted and I got shortlisted, while she got shortlisted in another company and I didn't get shortlisted there. Even though I there also we did a similar performance as per her and me, right? So it's a luck factor that you cannot overcome at all, right? So I would say, please don't be too hard on yourself. It's very easy to get disheartened and feel demotivated and think that this is not for you. When will I get placed and everything? Do not look at other people. Absolutely. Okay. Every day you would have tests. Every day, some 10 people, 10 odd people would be getting placed. Do not look at other people. It will only add on to your pressure. All you should do every day is to try to improve on yourself. Don't look at who is getting placed on which day. Don't look at who got placed before you. Don't look at who's getting placed after anything. Just focus on yourself and go with your own pace. Okay, people prepare at their own uh, frequencies. Okay, don't get whatever advice that you can, as much advice that you want from many people. Okay, but like don't make a how do I say, too many cooks spoil the broth. Okay, like if I got 10 different kinds of advices from 10 of my seniors or 10 other friends or whatever, obviously they're giving me advice for my own good, but when I have 10 different suggestions, you're bound to screw it up for yourself. So it's better that you If you get advice or whatever, and you decide your own pace, prepare in your own pace. Don't see how fast somebody is going. Don't see somebody solving 50 questions in a day, and you're solving maybe just 10 or anything, because it very well may turn out that you just need those 10 questions that's it. Okay, I didn't prepare the whole year for the placements at all. For me, I think so I must have prepared for say 20 days on top of whatever experience I had before, right? It is different for people. Some of my friends prepared for the entire year, and they did really well. Some people like me did this. Some people are still preparing and they're still getting placed. So it works out. So do not be too hard on yourself. Trust yourself, and be patient. Every person gets placed. Uh, and just freebie, there are super dream companies for my senior batch that still came till the end, like till the start of June. Okay, they still got placed in super dream companies till then. That means you have your entire year to get placed. So there is absolutely no need to be hard on yourself. I guess that is it, and enjoy yourself in the process. I guess do what is most interesting for you. I never stopped myself from doing anything. Okay, if I was interested in doing something, I would do it. If I was interested in working on hardware, I used to do that. Like I told you, because I work on drones and planes regularly, so I have a drone at my home. I wouldn't stop working on it because I have to sit for a software company. I wouldn't do that. That's fine. So you need to have time for yourself, do right by yourself, and I guess yeah, that should be.
Okay, that's all the questions we have for you today, Bhaiya. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing about your journey. It was really informative. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you here.